himself, but you don't look at him and think,
Penny's saying he looked very hurt, by the way.
I am about X-Men not being the #1 franchiser, but
okay, so,
Avengers is cool.
So anyway, Davian, you're actually depressing me with all this talk about DC. Let's just get away from DC.
I'm just showing you how bad they are. They
exactly.
literally made it easier. You wanted them to put up a fight, but they made it so easy for Marvel to just dominate the market.
Again, I don't want to go too much into it, but as someone who didn't really grow up watching DC, I wanted the DC universe to kind of capture me and make me want to go and investigate DC a bit more. It's not happening. But as we were saying, in terms of the Avengers, each character pretty much gets a story arc in some way, shape, or form, which begins in their own individual movie, or it begins within the Avengers, and it's paid off in those last 2 movies. For me, I think the best story arc is Captain America's story arc, where before he crashes the plane in the first Captain America movie, he says to Peggy Carter, "We're going to get that last dance." And then they paid that off 5+ years in Avengers Endgame and finished the movie with Captain America dancing with Peggy. And they paid near enough every single one of their characters that kind of they give each that. Which, what was the most satisfying character arc for you, Davian?
Well, as great as the Avengers movies were, I think to me my favorite so far of all of the Marvel movies, which kind of links everything, was actually Captain America Civil War. To me, I think that's probably the greatest superhero movie fight scene, everything in one or whatever. I mean, that was just completely epic. It was so epic, Manny P. Remember, you've actually bought me one of those
the graphic novel for the original story.
The graphic novel for the original story, which I haven't read yet.
Which is actually probably my favorite Marvel story of all time.
Yeah. So
I mean, we can have an entire different discussion about that, because that's
no, but I'm just saying it was just so it was just so epic, but it linked. That's what made it consistent, because the story linked. They obviously fell out, so therefore there were certain things that happened in. Yeah.
Wasn't as well just say he loved Captain America and Agent Carter?
I think her niece was nice too.
Okay, but staying away from that, let's keep this a tidy conversation.
Yeah, well, he kissed the niece. How's he going to explain that to Auntie now when he's gone back in time?
That was a bit weird, I have to admit. But maybe Captain America isn't the perfect human being we all think he was.
If you come to think of it now, in all these shows, especially like in Black Hood movies, like there's always that uncle that they always tell you that, stay away from Uncle so and so.
So we're saying Steve Rogers is the bad uncle now.
Captain America has now become that uncle or whatever, like like the niece. They go be like, wait, he's the one that kissed your niece in the future. Stay away from him.
And it was literally as well, your auntie's just died, but you're available. It's great. It's like,
let me just get in there in front of his friends as well too.
Well, he had to show his friends he had game, I'm guessing. But that was a bit, when I kiss, I'm a bit like, I'm not sure you should be doing that, Cat. I guess we're all human when it comes down to it. Where were we?
It gives a great, you've got a great escape card when you do anything like that now, because you're like, well, if Captain America can kiss his niece, and the day of his funeral for his woman, which is her auntie, then so can I. Oh wow! Look at Penny. Yeah, you getting in there. Yeah? So, who are you calling the pervert? Captain America, or
I think she's calling. Well, there's always a pervert in every situation. I think is the point there. I guess, like in any group, the most even if they're not that perverted, the most perverted one gets the title of being the pervert simply by default.
Well, hang on. Well, just sticking to that subject right there. We're technically a group. There's like 4 of us. So, wait, what are you trying to imply? So, who's the pervert in the group here?
We'll have this discussion for another day, sir. We'll have this discussion for another day. But we're talking about Civil War. Obviously, great movie. That scene where Ant-Man becomes big, giant. giant man, as he's referred to by some people. I mean, how I didn't actually jump out of my seat in the cinema and started clapping like that, I don't know. I just have lots of self-restraint.
Yeah, you were being reserved. I'm sorry, Penny. No comment. Okay, I hear that. I hear that. I'm sure she's actually referring to the pervert of the group.
Okay, well,
But then why am I taking it on like it's me? Like, it seems like I'm admitting to guilt or something.
I mean, if you want, we can have another session purely dedicated to your perversions, if you wish. But I don't think this is quite the place to be having that discussion.
Listen, you Duke of Hamilton. I am not. It's not me. I'm a saint-ish. Yeah.
Okay. Sure you are.
Captain America. Captain Britain.
But yeah, I mean, we've already covered the story arcs. I mean, I think as well for me, Iron Man's story arc is obviously that's an amazing story arc where he starts off as a dick. I mean, Tony Stark's likable because he's cool and all that kind of stuff, but there's also a big dickish side to Tony Stark as well, quite an unlikable side to him. But what you see throughout the course of the movies is him becoming more and more empathetic to those around him. I think that empathy is actually what...
Not so much, because remember, when in Avengers, when he started having like that, I'm just a billionaire, blah, 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 when him and Captain America was having a go on the ship, when they were being possessed by Iron Man's your favorite. I'd have to say, who's my favorite?
What do you think about that? Just to go with my Iron Man comment, I think has became more empathetic. That's how it's only because of him becoming more empathetic that was the only reason that allowed him, I think, to actually have a proper stable relationship with Pepper. And then you saw that as he kind of took on Spider-Man as a kind of, an adopted son. And then at the end, he makes the ultimate sacrifice where even though at this point in his life, he has everything. He has Pepper. He has a beautiful daughter. He has this beautiful life just out living in the woods by a beautiful lake. He sacrifices everything to bring everybody back.
Yeah, but that was after though, Manny P. Because think about it. When he actually was declaring his love for her, he actually was on a ship an alien ship that was actually taking him into space or whatever, So that's not really the best start to a relationship. Like, yeah, babe, I really love you. I want to start a life with you. By the way, I'm going out of planet.
But at that point, it was the only start which he thought he had available. He never thought he would be coming back. I mean, I think it's a great character arc. And then, even when they, in the funeral scene, where you see his arc reactor and it says, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. And at the end, you see it. He did have a heart. He had a huge heart. When he had the Infinity Gauntlet in his hand, remember what he'd done to the Incredible Hulk? He was in absolute pain when he clicked his fingers. Tony Stark somehow kept it together. I imagine his suit was absorbing a lot of the energy. And for the entire universe, he kept it together, said, I am Iron Man, clicked those fingers. And it was amazing. And I don't know about you, Davian, but I've never been in a cinema, and I've seen it in a cinema twice on both occasions. I've never heard people cry like that in a cinema, the way they've watching Iron Man die, Tony Stark die.
Well, me, when I actually watched it in the cinema, I didn't go when it was packed because I didn't want to do like what one of my cousins did, which was when we went to watch, I think it was Spider-Man when I was living in America. And because people was talking, this grown-ass man actually went up and go and call the ushers to complain. So I didn't want to do him. So I actually went and watched it during the day because I had I've got the unlimited card with Cineworld. So I just went during the day and watched it when it was and
by the way, Penny agrees that Iron Man, he did see Iron Man grow as a man over time.
Yeah, that's true. He did grow, but he still had his ego, He still had
had his ego, but that's what makes it even more impressive that in spite of that ego, he still accomplished all that he accomplished and still managed to save the universe and was, he could have just said, I just want to be my daughter. That's it. I don't care about anything else. Instead, he sacrificed everything. This is not true, by the way. The Duke was not crying in the cinema. The Duke wanted to cry in the cinema, but the Duke held it back.
Nah, you were crying. Stop lying. You was doing them Duke
But
crying.
I'll get into that
Oh,
more.
Penny, you was
Actually.
crying. Was you crying, Penny?
Davian, stop mocking our guests, please.
I'm not mocking. I'm just asking a question,
You
dude.
are. You're asking in a very aggressive, condescending manner if she was crying or not. Could you please behave yourself?
Penny, did you cry, Penny?
And anyway, Penny's tears.
You was crying too, many people.
But I mean, watching the Endgame movie, in one of the opening scenes where Nebula and Tony Stark make it back to Earth, and they both leave the ship, and Nebula sits down, and Rocket walks up to Nebula and just sits down next to her and holds her hand. I had to stop myself crying at that moment, and that was only 10 minutes into the movie, because that for me was again, and you can only do this if you build up this library of movies over 10 years, because at that point Nebula was Rocket's only family.
Yeah.
And you could read, and you don't have to say anything, just the writing alone, that scene, sits next to her, holds her hand, which again is so out of character for Rocket to do as well. And I'm sure Nebula felt really awkward as well. But just for that to happen, I mean, I nearly started crying then. But I told myself, if I start crying now, I'm going to cry throughout the entire movie, and I'm not even going to enjoy it or know what the hell's going on, because I'm one of those people crying and snot comes out of their nose, and it's just all a big mess.
The Duke crying, them royal crying.
It's
no stiff upper lip, just bawling.
It's a cry of nobility, I'll have you know, sir.
Yes, a noble tear. No, it's pretty cool. I mean, the only movie I could think of that made me really want to cry because it was so beautiful was when I actually watched Sin City 1 in the cinema, which was back in 2004, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
That was just perfection. That was just so amazing. And in fact, that was actually the first time I actually knew of graphic novels, because Sin City was actually based on the graphic novels. There's like 4 stories.
Yep.
And that one was the first one. So that was the first one. But Avengers was absolutely amazing. There's nothing I could say that they needed to change in it. Like, everything was just absolutely great. And the casting, which is very important.
Absolutely.
Very, very,
do you want to talk a bit about the casting? The casting is actually on my list of things to talk about, but let's talk about the casting now. There's some genius bits of casting, but what casting really stood out for you?
Well, it's a bittersweet one for me, to be honest, because the casting that stood out for me was Robert Downey Jr. For Iron Man. And the reason why I'm saying it's bittersweet was because it's actually Terrence Howard, who was, who played Rhodey in the first Iron Man movie.
Yep.
That's who actually got Robert Downey Jr. the part.
Okay.
And they actually fell out after that because they wanted him to take less money in the other roles and wouldn't give him a chance to actually have a spin-off with War Machine. And he kind of felt, which, I mean, if you're not familiar, you could actually Google it, look at YouTube, you'll actually see it's actually facts that we're talking about it, that he felt that, what's his name, Robert Downey Jr. didn't go back for him like he done for him. So there wasn't so there's a real bit of Tony Stark in him type of thing, like, it's just kind of like ruthless type of thing.
Tony Stark by nature. And I think the thing about Robert Downey Jr. as well is, I mean, at that time, the rumor is that very few studios wanted to work with Tony Stark because of his previous
Robert
problems.
Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. See, they both become the same person in my eyes.
Which is why, to me, but that's why, again, to me, loyalty is important, because if someone goes out their way when things isn't really going great for you and they actually vouch for you and get you that, and then you hit a home run with it, you did amazing with it, and then you have that control, you're supposed to go, you're supposed to show loyalty to them as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but
if
you
you
got to remember
don't,
as well. I mean, there's two sides to every story. We don't know. You know, we may hear Robert's side of it, and he may have an entirely different opinion on the matter. But going back to
maybe so. But yeah, that was great. I loved that. And to me as well, the one that shocked me as well was
sorry. So just to just quickly finish my point about Robert Downey Jr. The fact that the studios didn't want to touch him, as you've already said.
yeah,
Like that first Iron Man movie, like if it flopped, there would have been no MCU. Do you know what I mean? And because Robert Downey Jr. does such a great job as Iron Man, he kind of gave the MCU the strength to go forwards into what it became 10 years later. And I think the MCU kind of saved Robert Downey Jr. to a certain extent as well. It kind of, it kind of reinvigorated him, and and everybody really appreciates him for the great actor he is again.
Yeah, true. But let's not get it twisted now. Let's keep it real. The person who really helped build, who started the whole MCU franchise, is none other than Mr. Tax Evader, Wesley Snipes. Because
but we're talking about the modern day MCU. This actually MCU kind of universe. I mean, what Wesley Snipes done was great back in the day. But obviously, it has no connection to.
Well, yeah, because it's that money that also helped to fund all those things as well. Because without that money, they wouldn't have had those budgets to do those things.
What that Blade movie done was it was Marvel's kind of first real successful foray into the movie realm.
Yeah, but and it was adult-ish as well too, and it did so well. Which is, just think about that: the fact that it was not for kids and it was such a huge blockbuster. Then
don't get me wrong.
It was PG.
Don't get me wrong; it was a great movie, but that Blade movie has no kind of influence on that Iron Man movie.
No, not influence, but the funding. I'm just saying in terms of it also helped contribute to the pillar of building.
Yeah, it was down. It was down to Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau. If they had flopped that movie, regardless of any movie, regardless of any movie in the past, there would have been no MCU. They would have just.
It's true. There would have been no Captain America, no Thor, none of that.
Well, Penny says Blade as an Avenger would have been epic. I don't know if Penny's aware, but they've actually cast. I'm going to butcher his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking. The dude from Moonlight.
No, not Moonlight. Mahershala Ali as a Blade.
Yeah, he's the dude from that Moon something movie. The one he got. That's the one he actually won an Oscar for.
Okay, movie's already done. But yeah, I mean, he was in Luke Cage as well.
Yeah. He was great in Luke Cage.
I mean, Penny may well get her wish and actually see Blade hook up with the Avengers at some point in the near future.
Yeah, but Penny, just to give you a heads up in case you're not aware, the fans ain't too happy about that casting. It's nothing to do with him, but they still wanted Wesley to play Blade because Wesley's still fitting up because Robert Downey Jr. is like, what, 60?
He's not 60.
He's not 40.
He's not 60. I'll tell you how old he is. 1 second. Carry on talking.
Google it.
That's what I'm doing.
Me. I'm gonna do you like what Shaquille O'Neal would say to to Charles Barkley. Google me, Manish. Google me. Well, you won't find anything about me. But
He's 55.
Oh wow, sorry, my bad. He's only 5 years off 60.
Yeah, so he would have been 45 when the MCU started. So that's the point.
Yeah, and Wesley's what, about same age? So he can still play Blade.
I'll tell you how old young Wesley is. 1 second. Young Wesley is 58.
Damn.
I mean, he looks well. He does look. I mean, he's aged okay, but he's looking a bit goofy at the age of 58. I mean, I think he did need to be recast as. I do think the recasting of Blade was a good idea.
Yeah, but at the same time, Manny P, they should have done it like the way they've done. Like remember Shaft with what's his name? Samuel L. Jackson played Shaft, but what they've done, they also brought in the original Shaft.
Yeah, I mean, how much fan service do you want to do?
Yeah, Penny, he's sexy. He's a sexy Blade, and he was badass as well. Come on, they can't replace that. Think about it. That scene in the second Blade movie when he was surrounded, when they got betrayed, and he literally did them old school samurai thing there, where he just stabbed the sword in the floor, like literally accepting defeat, but he wasn't going down. That was
Okay, David, you
badass.
seem
I
to be
know we're
getting
on
very
here on
excited now
Avengers.
about. You seem to get very excited about Blades, but so we'll take you back to the Avengers because I'm worried you might explode.
It's Penny's fault talking about Blade and sex. He was badass.
Oh, I
I
don't
thought it
think
was
Penny's. I
Blade.
don't think Penny's watching him anymore. I think Penny's actually now just googling images of Wesley Snipes. But, yeah, but in terms of casting as well, I mean, two bits of low key casting for me, which I thought were amazing. Which I think Josh Brolin as Thanos. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think was amazing and very underrated. Karen Gillian as Nebula. I thought she was amazing as Nebula.
It's so funny, many people, because it took me a while to actually pick up that. Damn, that's the girl from what's it called? Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the red hair girl, because you can't say the G word. I have to be politically correct. But that was her. I was like, wow, she actually done really, really well.
Yeah, I thought they were amazing. I think they both should have been nominated for supporting Oscars. Best supporting actors in the Oscars. Okay, that's a nice interjection there from Penny.
Thank you, Penny. That's good. Self-awareness is always good. Be
okay,
true
so
to yourself.
We've established who the pervert is in the group.
Oh, awesome. It's not me. We're safe.
But yeah, I mean, I think the casting from top, there wasn't really one piece of casting which I thought, yeah, that didn't work. I thought all the casting worked.
Well, I'll be honest. The one that had me nervous at first was Batista, because for those who's not familiar, like Penny, you probably might not know who Batista is. That's the one who plays
Drax the Destroyer.
Drax the Destroyer. He's actually a wrestler from WWE, and you wouldn't look at him, think, oh yeah, he's going to be great in that, considering you've seen some of his other small role movies that he played, which typical generic role for wrestlers who's starting out, like what The Rock did. It's similar type of movies, and he wasn't that great. But I have to say, he was one of my favorite characters inside it, because his dry sense of humor, where he just says stuff and he's genuine with it, but he actually is so funny at the same time. Like literally when he's standing there and he's watching Star-Lord and what's her name?
Gamora.
Yeah, having a moment, and he's standing there like listening, and they're like, "How long you been here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not here. I'm invisible." They're like, "No, we can see you." And he's moving slow. They're like, "We can see what you're doing." But he was just absolutely amazing, and that was considering he had the least amount of acting experience out of the entire cast, and you
absolutely. But coming back, Dave Bautista did actually go out of his way when he left wrestling to take loads of acting classes, and he started.
Yeah, but compared to them, the actual cast in the movie, those are actual full-fledged actors who's graduated from drama school and all of that. Oh, that's it. Okay, Penny, sorry, it's not you then, it's the internet. But she was admitting to being a pervert when we were talking about Wesley Snipes.
Or Wesley Snipes.
Yes. Well, you know what we can actually do? It doesn't matter now, Penny, that you're coming late. You're now officially the pervert of the group. So you are the female Captain America of this group.
Oh, I guess she is, yeah. I guess, yeah. Steve Rogers, we have established, is a bad man. Even though he tries to come across as the most conservative of the bunch, he's actually, because when you think about it, he kissed Peggy, he kissed Sharon, the niece, and he's also kissed Black Widow as well.
Black Widow, yeah. So he's a pervert.
I mean, Steve was definitely the man in a.
Well, I wouldn't say he's the man. To me, that kind of behavior is unacceptable. He's a good time Sally, a bit of a Jack the Lad, because that's the male version of a good time Sally. He's a bit of a Jack the Lad, Shame on you, Captain America, and kissing your niece in front of your friends.
It wasn't his niece, to be fair.
It's his niece by marriage. Oh, wow. You're giving him technicalities now for him to use.
They weren't married yet.
Not yet, but they will 50 years in the past when he goes back in time.
He didn't know that at that point. He didn't know he was going to end up going. He thought Peggy was dead and he had to move on.
Well, I hope he's a real man. And when he went back in time, he told her, "Oh, by the way, babe, I kissed our niece, our future niece, 50 years into the future. My
Well,
bad."
yeah, I mean, yeah. This is a controversial subject, so I think we should move on quickly.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. Next thing, poor Captain America get me too'd.
Yeah, she'll get.
You get
Yeah,
all other family
we don't
relatives
want to. We
coming
don't want
out.
to get Captain America cancelled. I think. I think this is what we're on the way to doing now, and let's not do that.
No, we love Marvel.
No, but I love Captain America is actually my favorite character. So,
Yeah,
um,
he's cool.
so another thing, I think the movie's captured as well. And if anybody in the comments has seen the DC movies, I'm actually looking at Dowdy. What the Marvel movies do, and especially what the Avengers movies do well too, is get that balance between the serious stuff and the comedy stuff. They get that perfect.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
balance is just amazing. One second you're literally laughing hysterically, and the next second you're proper crying your eyes out.
Yeah, or vice versa. Like literally, we go from seeing when Thor and all these people got destroyed, and then next thing he's floating, he gets found by what they call Guardians of the Galaxy, and they started like like perving on like that's not a what do they say, that's not a man. What do you refer to him as? He's like,
Oh,
that's what Jack, Drax, when he was there talking about, and he's comparing him to Star Lord. He's like, well, you put on a few pounds, and he started getting jealous or whatever, and he's
he
trying to
said,
talk
"You're
like
one sandwich away from being fat." Is what Rocket.
him.
Is what Rocket says to Star Lord.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think I'm getting back to that. I think I'm getting back there myself, so I can't laugh too much. But
I started the gym yesterday, Matty P, so I'm getting in there.
But yeah, I think that's just amazing. Now, when we're talking about, obviously, the funniest bit for me was Chubby 4. Chubby 4 suffering from PTSD. And I just remember in the cinema because all the women just love Thor. And who can blame him? I mean, he's a good looking guy with great abs. And then that scene, you could tell all the girls were excited to see Thor and him get his six pack out.
Yeah.
And the shrieks of disappointment when he turns around in the cinema, a huge belly was just amazing. And credit to Chris Hemsworth as well for playing that to a T.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect. I mean, again, that goes to the casting, like you said, because before Thor, I've never heard of Chris Hemsworth. I can't say I know any of his movie. In fact, I didn't even realize that he was brother to Liam Hemsworth, because I didn't know Liam Hemsworth's name. I just knew him from Hunger Games.
Yeah,
And
there's
then you realize,
a lot of them.
oh, yeah, you're like, oh, they're brothers or whatever. But again, the casting, he was just someone who wasn't known, Chris Hemsworth, in terms of those kind of movies. And then he just went on and he did so well. And again, with the connection, when you look at that, like, which is strange, but I always look at these things, like, you had Vin Diesel who plays Groot. And Vin Diesel obviously is, the owner for the Fast and Furious franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Fast and Furious 4, the one when they went to Brazil,
I haven't seen any of them beyond number 1. I have to say.
Well, the policewoman, that was when they revamped it when The Rock was in there. And the policewoman that he actually hooked up with and dated at the end is actually Chris Hemsworth's wife.
Okay.
So she was actually in that. So it's weird that they actually had that connection or whatever. So it was just, I mean, it's completely irrelevant, but yeah, it's just strange how it all links, connections of sorts.
Yeah, and when we talk about emotion, I mean, for me, probably the greatest moment for me in cinema history. And just before I go on to it, I remember Kevin Smith not talking about this moment, but just talking about the Avengers movies in general. So obviously Kevin Smith, he had a heart attack and then he died, didn't he?
Who?
Kevin Smith, he's the director of Mallrats and all those movies. You know Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Silent Bob.
Yeah. all that stuff. And he had a heart attack and then he died. And he survived it and he got himself in shape. And I can't remember which Marvel movie it was, but he put up on Instagram after he'd got out of the cinema and finished watching this Marvel movie that this was the reason why I stayed alive, to watch movies like this and to have amazing moments like this in the cinema. And for me, that I've never come close to death as far as I know. I mean, maybe, you know, I've walked past the bomb a few times, but, you know, never come close to death as far as I know.
What about when the dog bit you on the train?
That was close. That was close. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to have a moment here.
Yeah, I remember that. That was so random. Like, you messaged me like, yeah, actually, a bump with a dog on the train, the dog bit me. I was like, what? This is how long ago? About 6-7 years ago?
It was 17 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll talk about it in two stages. There was the first bit when they're having the final battle. Thor is basically about to be murdered by Thanos. And you see the hammer move.
Yeah.
And it's moving. And it picks up just a little, then he starts flying towards, and you think, okay, Thor's just going to smash him with his hammer. And then when it goes into Captain America's hands, for me, that's got to be the most satisfying moment for me ever in cinema history. As for me, having seen loads of movies in the cinema, that was immensely satisfying. That was like all of my geek dreams come true at once.
Yeah, that was
because I'd read about that in the comics as well, that Captain America was worthy. And they hinted that he could pick up the hammer in Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. And when it happens, and then he just starts wailing on Thanos with this hammer, and lightning and everything. And I mean, that was another thing which Marvel do so well, is fan service. It's fan service. And as Dowdy says here, it was 10 years in the making. They waited 10 years to pay off that moment. I mean, the patience it must have taken to do that.
Yeah, I think it was great. But to me, I think just that whole fight, the build-up, literally. So you had like the main three faces for the MCU and Avengers was literally side by side, ready to fight or whatever. And, you know, you've got the antagonist who's sitting there. And to me, that was the best part, because I don't care what no one says, Thanos is the man, because Thanos was just sitting there. He didn't give a damn who was coming. He's just sitting there like, yeah, I'm about to whoop everyone's ass. Like, what do you want to do about it? He wasn't running. He didn't have anyone to help him. He was just sitting there with that, I don't know what the hell kind of weapon that was, but that was a badass weapon that he had. And he did not give a damn. He was literally waiting there. Usually in movies, you know, a bad guy, when he sees the good guys re-energized and literally, you know, powered up and shit, you know, they get very scared now because, you know, like, oh, they're going to get their ass beat. He did not give a damn. They already killed them in the future. And now him from the past, they're like, I don't give a damn. I'm about to do it again. And he wasn't backing down on nothing. He was absolutely amazing. And
that's why Thanos might be the greatest bad guy. Dowdy, I'm going to get to that, Dowdy. Dowdy's just preempting me in the comments. And that might be why he's the greatest bad guy of all time, because number one, maybe Thanos had a point. We live in a world where we keep on being told about the dangers of climate change and having too many people, and we need to start holding back. And, you know, there might be people out there who actually think, hey, that Thanos guy had a point, deleting half the population. So, 100%. You know, as far as Thanos was concerned, he's the hero of the piece.
Well, I looked at it also in that way, because if you looked at it right, when Thanos actually created back his planet and he actually went and he basically just lived like a hermit life by himself on that planet or whatever, I think that was his way of punishing himself for what he done. Even though what he done it for a good reason, he still felt like he needed to punish himself and he didn't want to die. He could have easily have used the gauntlet again and like, killed himself, but he chose to literally like live in exile and just suffer. He didn't have anyone he didn't bring any family, no one. He was literally there by himself. He didn't put up a fight when they came for him.
That's an interesting way of putting it. For me, I probably think the opposite. I probably think it shows his hubris that he still considered himself worthy to be alive and, didn't take that 50-50 chance that he could be dusted. But I think as well, the other thing which makes Thanos, for me, the greatest bad guy of all time in cinema, he's a cool dude. I mean, he has his own version of nobility, which is totally twisted at times. I mean, he saw the way he tortures his daughters.
Well, one more than the other.
Yes, unfortunately. But like even when Thanos dies at the end, he doesn't die screaming like a little biatch. Yeah. He just sits down, accepts what's going to happen, and just allows himself to be dusted. Penny says it was for him totally selfless, as he lost his daughter, which was the only thing he loved. See, so
that's exactly why I said what I said, because I think that's exactly how it was for him. He had lost everything that he made the ultimate sacrifice. We all think about Iron Man making the ultimate sacrifice by giving up his life, but the only person, if you really look at it, he tolerated Nebula, but he didn't really love Nebula. But I think
he was disappointed in Nebula.
Right, but he loved Gamora. He loved her so much. And I think for him, when he actually had to sacrifice her to do that, because think about it, if he didn't love her, he never would have gotten that last Infinity Stone, because you had to sacrifice something that you love. Yep. So he genuinely loved her. So yeah, when he did do that and then he created that planet, he could have, remember, he destroyed the gauntlet. So he didn't, it's not like he did, he had it, he kept it, he destroyed it after he created that planet, and he just decided to live out his days just suffering.
I think there's two really important things you've touched upon here, both you and Penny. Number one, the amount of like moral discussions you can have over Thanos. It's just amazing. That's what makes a great bad guy. He's actually, once you peel away all these things, he is so layered, and there are potentially so many motivations for why he did what he did. And and it kind of shows as well how love can become twisted and how love can become toxic and make you do really terrible, heinous things like that. And the other point as well, regarding this, is you can juxtapose that against Tony Stark. So Thanos sacrifices his daughter for what he loves. Tony Stark sacrifices himself and leaves his daughter alive, but without him, for what he loves. So there's at two opposing ends of the spectrum, Thanos and Tony Stark, but in a way, they both wanted to achieve the same thing, and that was to save the universe in how they perceived it should be saved.
In their own way. But yeah, because if you remember with Thanos's, what they kind of said, basically he grew up in a time where there was hunger and
his planet was his planet of Titan was overpopulated.
Yeah, so he grew up suffering, and he just did not want that again. So he kind of reminds me of Darth Vader. Literally, his intention was good, but it's just the way he went about it.
Darth Vader never had good intentions. He was dark side.
Well, yes, he did. He didn't. No, remember, he went to the dark side because he feared losing the woman he loved. Remember, that's what literally pushed him to go and try and seek, counsel from Darth Sidious.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Again, I guess Darth Vader, like Thanos, is a great bad guy because he's a layered individual.
Yeah, because it's not like he just woke up and said, I want to kill everyone and just rule the world for no reason. No, he wanted to save. It was out of love. Thanos was doing what he did because he loved life, or should I say, he loved people more than he actually loved even his own daughter. So he sacrificed his daughter for the world.
That's actually a good point. In the comments, do you agree? Do you think Thanos and Darth Vader, that there's huge similarities between the two? I mean, Davian's kind of convincing me now that there is, which is good, which is, I think, what discussion should be. It's about adjusting your view of things based on what other people have said. Have you adjusted yourself so you're taller than me in the chat?
Yeah, I need to get a proper
Because
case.
in real life we're the same height, just so people are aware.
I'm 5'8". How tall are you?
5'8".
All right, fair enough. Well, who's got longer hair than Manny P?
Huh?
Who's got longer hair?
You undo yours.
Well, I can't even undo mine. It's going to take long, but mine's down to my back. I look like. All right,
mine.
show off. Yeah, yours is a little bit longer.
Okay.
Jesus. Thanks, Manny P. Just because you're the Duke of Homerton don't mean you have to embarrass a little peasant like me. Yeah.
Anyway, now let's get on to the other bit of absolute fan service and the greatest moment for me in cinema history.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
And all we can describe it as on your left, Cap. So let's just give this scene a bit of backstory. So before Avengers Endgame came out, it'd been reported in all the media that actually this was going to be Chris Evans's last movie in the MCU. So when Captain America is basically stood by himself, not just against Thanos, but against Thanos' entire army, I was sat there in the cinema thinking, well, this is Chris's last movie. This is probably how he goes out, and he's going to go out swinging. Yeah. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be the most honorable death you could ever hope for in the Marvel universe. And I'm just looking, and I think I was just kind of sat a bit forward. And I was just expecting the worst for Chris, because Captain America is my favorite character. He's just when he's not being pervy, he's just a nice, humble man. And then when you just heard that on your left, Cap, I just fell back into my seat, and I had to stop myself from crying. Because I think we all have those moments in our lives when we need our friends and we need our family, and we don't think they're going to turn up. And then suddenly your friends and family, oh God, I'm getting emotional now just talking about it. And suddenly your friends and family do turn up, and it just reminds you of how important you are to them and vice versa, and how in life people don't give up on you. People may have their own lives, but people rarely, when you need their help, they won't give up on you. And for me, that's
real people. Yeah, true. Real people. Yeah, it was epic, because literally, they just fought one hell of a battle. They're battered, they're beaten, but their will is not broken. And just when you think, oh, they might do something, you see Thanos' incredible army, all his generals, all these monsters, everything is there, and they're completely outnumbered. You have the other Avengers are literally battling to save their lives, because they're all in different positions and trying to make it to get to them, which they can't. And then you just heard, on your left, and then you look, and it's King T'Challa.
Yeah.
He won't be!
Apologies if you're listening to this on headphones. I think he said it wrong as well.
Yeah, probably did.
I think he's... but yeah, so those are the first three to walk out, which kind of plays on the fact that Black Panther was still huge and was still in the forefront of so many people's minds, and having T'Challa walk out first, I mean,
the first one to come out,
amazing. And that's another thing about the Avengers Infinity Wars, when they have that big battle at the end as well, when
when Thor came, and
when they're trying to get through the barriers and they're running towards the barriers, and Captain America and Black Panther running towards the barriers. I remember in the cinema, I thought my heart was going to explode out of my chest. This was basically reading comics as a child. This was, and then having, been let down by so many movies, like the X-Men movies, and stuff, and suddenly to have all this fan service, to have all my dreams realized in moments like this, I literally thought my heart was going to burst out my chest. But the most important thing was that Captain America and Black Panther ran into that battle as equals.
Yeah, side by side, which showed that they were equal. there's not one who's better than the
Yeah.
other type of thing. We are a team. We are on the same level, which is, obviously it's kind of like you look at that and it's got like a slight political
Yeah, exactly.
message in that,
yeah,
where it's just showing that, it doesn't matter black or white, you should all be equal. When push comes to shove, it's not the color of the person's skin or their gender you're going to be looking at when, you need someone's help or whatever. It's literally the fact that you want someone who's going to be there for you.
exactly. So going back to the on your left cap scene, so yeah, when everybody came out, because what the genius of that movie as well is, prior to that, Hulk had snapped and they'd won. Everybody had come back, but because Thanos, and it's just genius, right? Because Thanos, within seconds later, has attacked the Avengers headquarters. You forget very quickly that everybody has come back until you hear that little message from Sam Wilson in Captain America's ear.
Yeah.
Which just for me, then everybody comes out, and then you just know, okay, yeah, now it's about to get real. Honestly, you thought I was by myself. No, I am really not by myself. And then 10 years in the making, Captain America says, Avengers assemble. And I mean, they didn't say that in the first movie, second movie, or third movie. They waited to the fourth Avengers movie to say that. And I mean, I was ready to jump off my seat and run into the cinema into that battle myself. I mean, in that moment, I would have happily have followed Captain America into any war.
Yeah, that was absolutely. That's two of the moments. That's one of the two moments in that movie that people was really amazed and loved. Was the snap.
Yeah.
That was like the one where everyone was like, oh my God, he actually did the snap. It's just like in the comic. It's just like this. It's just like that. So that was like a huge thing. And then, yes, Avengers Assemble, that was just absolutely epic. And, obviously, because he felt empowered now because his friends are there. They never had that energy. If Thanos was one of those hood guys, he'd be like, you never had that energy before when I was whooping your asses. But now because your friends are here, yeah, you want to be like Avengers Assemble. Yeah, but it was absolutely epic. And yeah, they couldn't have ended that movie any better. It was just completely perfect. It was spot on. And also it left so much things to the imagination where you think, well, they could still technically time travel. So is Tony Stark really dead? They could technically bring him back, blah, blah, blah. You've got all those where it could be a possibility.
Yeah, he won't come back. He won't come back.
You sure about that?
Yes, a lot of the directors as well have said that they feel as though they don't want to cheapen these moments by having people come back. Because what happens?
It's not cheapened, but there was a rumor that they were going to have, which obviously people were in uproar about it. They were going to have a female Iron Man. It was going to be a black.
Yeah, but obviously that's Ironheart. That's Ironheart.
Yeah, but they said it's only going to be for a while, but Iron Man will be back type of thing. But you don't know if that's just hopeful, wishful thinking. It's kind of like Wolverine.
It might just be hopeful thinking. But I think one thing the directors know is if they brought back Tony Stark from life, if they brought Tony Stark back to life.
And his staff, you never know. They probably died.
And his staff. If they brought him back to life, any consequent death in the MCU won't have the same impact because that person can come back. Some people have to stay dead to make the future deaths in the MCU mean something.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like Black Widow, obviously, and Captain America. Yeah, but
they have brought people back. Obviously, they've done a weird thing with Gamora where they've plucked a Gamora from another timeline to still be alive. But beyond that, I think their attitude is they very much want to keep their dead characters dead to ensure that the gravitas of their passings carry on meaning something. It's got their deaths have to be motivation for these guys. I mean, you haven't watched WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, have you?
No, not yet, because I've only one. I've only just got my internet sorted out here, my home internet, and two, I now need to get the Disney Plus, which like I mentioned to you, I was having problems earlier because me trying to sign up because I'm in a different region as to where I can actually get it from. But I think we managed to work our way around that, which I'm going to be onto that. So I'm definitely going to be onto that, and that's going to be one of our podcast things because for us, we're like the Marvel guys. I mean, we're not. I'm not. Surprise, surprise. I'm not new age Marvel that's just jumped on the bandwagon. I've been into Marvel from school days, like, so that's from in the 90s because Manny P used to take me to Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, I used to hold your
In,
hand.
yep, hold my hand, take me to Forbidden
Make
Planet
sure you cross the road properly.
in Tottenham Court Road, right next to the Argus. You had the Argus store that you had right next to Argus was Forbidden Planet. So that was absolutely epic. So, I've been into the comics from way, way back or whatever. And
But at the same time,
anything
if you're a new follower to the Marvel Universe, that's great. I think we need new people to carry on jumping on it.
No, we definitely do to carry it forward because it's just like anything.
100%. But I mean, I'm not no spoilers for you, but I'm 40. I mean, I'm old. Happy to admit that.
I'm 17, so I don't know what Penny's talking about. Yeah, I'm a boy. Yeah, I'm like Benjamin Button, but without the shorts, that he wears, the church suit that he was wearing in the movie.
David, I thought we agreed we weren't going to lie during the during this podcast. But yeah, I mean, when you start watching WandaVision, you're going to see that WandaVision is a beautiful examination of trauma and how people deal with trauma in the aftermath of something. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful TV show. It's probably the best superhero TV show ever made, in my opinion, because it's just written in such a beautiful, different way. It's very unique in the way it's written. And Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think if you've seen my video where I reviewed the first episode, it's a great sturdy foundation for the rest of the series. But again, you're seeing a situation where Sam Wilson and Bucky are trying to find a place for themselves and trying to make sense of the world, after they've been dusted and now come back. And their mentor, Captain America, nobody knows where he is, but he isn't really around anymore. So yeah, I think what we're going to see now is that now that the MCU, with these amazing movies, have laid this solid groundwork, they can now start telling these more kind of layered stories and maybe investigate other aspects. They don't just have to be basic superhero movies anymore.
No, it's true. But one of the things
I agree, Penny.
Yeah, but Penny, just in case you may not be aware, that's one of the only thing that I had an issue with the when it comes to the Marvel. But hopefully now, because it's the MCU, so it may have slightly changed. But because you had different studios that had different Marvel franchise, certain characters weren't allowed to be in certain movies.
Yes.
Like for instance, in the first, was it in Avengers we first saw Scarlet Witch?
Yeah.
Was it the first Avenger?
Yeah, and Disney made a deal with is it Warner Brothers or Sony that had the X-Men? I think it was Sony. No. Someone in the comments help me, please. Was it Sony or?
Yeah, Sony had X-Men.
Yeah, so Sony and Disney had a deal where you have Scarlet Witch, you can have your own Quicksilver, but you got to kill them off. Fox, sorry,
right.
Thank you, Fox.
Oh, is it Fox that had it?
Yeah, Fox that had them.
So Penny, if you're not aware, so Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are twins, and their father is
Davian.
Right? It wasn't me. I'm not the pervert of the group. And it's definitely, for once, this time it's not actually Penny. But it's Magneto from X-Men. That's their father. But again, because X-Men is on a different, it's Fox, and
Studio.
obviously, yeah, Fox Studios, and Avengers is with was it with Disney all along, or
Disney.
was it?
Disney.
Yeah,
Disney.
so it was always with Disney. So therefore, they couldn't have Quicksilver in it. So she, you don't see, so they killed him off in Avengers, but he's alive in the X-Men franchise. But you never see her in the X-Men movies. You see Quicksilver makes regular cameos, but she's not actually in there. He's got a sister, but you never see her.
Yeah.
So they need to fix that, because it would be nice for them to actually both know their parent, know, oh, Magneto is your dad, type of thing, because that is awesome. Your dad is Magneto.
Well, thankfully, moving on, we'll cover this quickly. Obviously, Disney now have the rights to the X-Men movies, so they are now allowed to start introducing the mutants into the MCU. So we are eventually going to see the X-Men in the MCU. Exactly how they're going to be introduced, still a mystery. There's lots of theories going around.
I've got one right now. Thinking about it, they could have used the reason why Quicksilver is alive because of the snap.
Actually, leave that, because we're going to do another video about theories in how the mutants can come back. And actually, Dowdy, if you're interested in the comments, I'd like you to attend that one as well, please.
And
maybe he's left, but Dowdy's got quite a few theories.
Well, since Penny's also into the WandaVision, and she's watching the WandaVision and all of that, you'll have to be a guest on our podcast when we'll be doing the WandaVision ones. I mean, I'm going to have to catch up because I haven't actually seen any of it, so I don't have a clue what's happening in any of it. So I'm going to be binge watching over the next few days, but especially over the weekend, as we've got an extra long
Penny's probably seen something in what? Okay, fine. Don't turn up to the stream. Fine. You're not that essential. Jesus.
Well, you're the Duke. That's why you shouldn't have put your title up there now. And I don't know that you've got estates and all sorts. Now, too late. They've already seen it here. They've probably done a screenshot.
I'll pay you £2. So I've got.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, so I think next week we'll do a video about how. No, I'll tell you what. Watch WandaVision first, and then we'll do a video about how the mutants could possibly come back into the MCU. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think as well, Penny probably asking about Quicksilver as well, because something interesting happens in WandaVision regarding that, but I'm not going to spoil it for you.
So come on, Penny, you're coming on the podcast, and Manny P can pay you £2 as well. Actually,
I'm not paying Penny.
Give her 3.
I'm not paying Penny. You're paying Penny.
She's a pervert. Well, okay, so I have to pay the pervert to the group.
Yeah, Dowdy's sensible, so that's fine.
Okay, all right, pervert Penny, I'll pay you.
Even though, yeah, but yeah. Sorry. So, yeah, I think that was a good discussion about the Avengers. To leave off, where do you want to see the Avengers going in the future?
I think it's going to be very difficult to continue with the Avengers in the future. Reason being, it's just like anything. When you've watched someone perfected a role, even though obviously they're not going to be recasting anyone to play, Tony Stark 2.0 or Captain America 2.0, but just the fact that these people were actually so epic as that group, anyone that comes in after, you're going to think to yourself, oh God, no, because you're always, whether you want to or not, subconsciously, you're still going to compare them to the Avengers. You'd be like, no, if that was Captain America, he would have done this. Tony Stark would have done that. So it's going to be very, very hard. It's kind of like when you have someone who plays a character and then they recast that character, and the person that comes in usually gets a hard time, because especially if it's a loved character, because you're going to be like, oh, he wasn't great. Like, I mean, a perfect example of that was Spartacus. Do you remember the series Spartacus that was out in? And I mean, it's unfortunate because he passed away. Andy Whitfield, that was his name. He passed away from cancer. after becoming huge from the first season of it. So literally, he only did one season of it, which was 10 episodes. But when they recasted the role, it was actually that's the spirit, Penny. Good, 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 good. Um, exactly. They need to quit while they're ahead. Yeah, because when they did recast the part for Spartacus, as good as he was, he came in a legacy. And even though he didn't do anything wrong, so it wasn't a case like, oh, he stole that guy's role. It was someone who passed away. Don't matter how great he was, you still felt, oh, if it was Andy, he would have done it this way, or it would have been, you don't have that same euphoria as you would if it was the person who you affiliate that character with. So
Yeah.
I think it would be the same. So because we think of Avengers, we think of Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Black Widow, even the Shield agents. You think of, like Samuel L. Jackson. What's his name? Nick Fury. You think of all those people. So if you had someone else involved, you think, well, he's not this person or he's not that person. It's the same for what it's going to be going in forward with Black Panther.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very hard to actually replace that character. The only thing I could think that they could do, which would possibly work, because I've read some of the stuff online because I started doing some research, was in the comics, apparently Killmonger does get brought back to life by a witch doctor, and he comes back to life and he actually becomes the Black Panther, and then he actually got his own costume, and I can't remember what his new name was after that. But that's the only way they could do it going forward, because he was also beloved as well.
Yeah,
he was a bad guy, but that's the only way. But if you try to bring someone else in to play the
they've already said they're not going to do that. It's fine.
Yeah, it would be crazy.
They've already said they're not going to do that. In terms of me, how the MCU should be moving forward, now that they've done the groundwork in telling a superhero story extremely well over 10 years, I think now they can start exploring other things. Like with the X-Men, I think they can make the X-Men very relevant to current day politics. Like the X-Men is basically a metaphor for black rights and
black rights and racism, back in the day,
and gay rights as well. So I think they could tell a really important story there about those human rights that we should all have, and I think
which would be perfect. Many pieces
could be really powerful. So I don't think the Fox movie.
FOH. You remember the FOH from the series, the Friends of Humanity? They were like literally like the KKK.
Yeah, and
bring them in the movie. That would be great, because this day and era.
I mean, in the comics, you've got all kinds of things. You've got like Genosha, which is kind of like a place where they enslave mutants. There's so many things which they could do, which are so relevant to society at the moment, and that's what I'd like to see them do. I'd like for them to explore how mutants, like how difficult it is for them to integrate into society, and I'd like for them to tell stories about how people coming back, as good as an act that was, it's actually caused a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah,
because I've said in my video as well. Imagine, for example, you live at home and your husband beats you up, like he's basically like a domestic abuser, basically, and then he gets vanished, and you escaped him, and your life is back to normal. Then suddenly he's undusted and he comes back. For most people coming back is a good thing. But for other people, actually, it could be the worst thing, because people in your life who might have abused you, they could be back in your life as well.
Well, the only way that would be an issue would be if there's, for some reason they made some law that states if you get brought back from, from disappearing because it's about 5 years they disappeared for, wasn't it?
David,
other than that, but abuser, whether or not you're an abuser, that marriage would have been dissolved after a certain amount of years.
It would have been, but David, the thing about abusers is they don't really follow those rules. They just try and get back into whatever kind of manipulative relationship they were in. But this is the thing, like it could be anything. It could be anything. Like maybe suddenly your inheritance has to be split 50-50, with your brother who's just come back from the dead as well. All these things could have happened, and you might have you might have moved on, started a new family with a new woman, and suddenly your wife's back, and now you're like, oh my god, I love both of them. Who do I go with?
Yeah.
There's all these stories which I think they could tell.
That's tricky right there. Your wife comes back like, yo, so you're telling me I've only been gone 5 years and you've moved on. I've only died 5 years ago, faded out of existence.
Exactly. They kind of allude to it in the Spider-Man movie as well, but people who might have faked their deaths to get out of situations during the blip, just disappeared, and then their family just think, oh, they must have been dusted. That's why I can't find them. But actually, they've just run away for a better life or something. I think
to avoid them loan payments and them loan sharks.
Exactly. And then suddenly, the loan shark thinks, oh, they're back. So that means I can go back after them, actually get that money. There's so many potential stories you can tell. The other thing as well, which I'm excited about, is to tell more kind of stories about the entities of the universe. Now, the Eternals.
Yeah.
The Eternals is going to be really interesting, which is obviously they're like almost a godlike race of beings.
Yeah, basically. Celestials.
And there might be a theory that actually it might have been the Eternals. This is kind of touched upon in the comics, but the Eternals were the ones that put the mutant gene in the human race. So that could be a way in which you introduce the mutants as well. But I mean, then you get on to beyond the Eternals. There's another race of beings called the Celestials.
Yeah,
and Celestials, they're kind of like these huge, ancient, primitive beings who have been there near enough since the dawn of the universe, and they basically oversee life across the universe and plant life in planets, and they decide whether like galaxies live or die, stuff like that. And I think stories about that would be really good because I think stories like concerning, say, Doctor Strange, which is like multi-dimensional, has shown that actually fans do like those types of movies, which make us question our reality a bit more. And I think now we're in a position we can go that step further.
Yeah, I think that will happen in Doctor Strange too. I think they'll start touching on more like those intergalactic creatures and beasts from other dimensions that are like godlike or whatever. So
yeah,
like Dormammu, I think exactly. That's going to be interesting. So yeah, I mean, I'm also looking forward to Morbius.
Yeah, that's going to be that's from the Spider-Man studio, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's already finished. I mean, obviously, I think it's because of the COVID. That's what slowed down the release of that, because it would have been released. I think it was June this year. It was supposed to be released.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not overly concerned about. I'm not pervert out. I'm not overly concerned about anything that studio does. Again, I think you can reach saturation point with superhero movies as well and superhero series. So at the moment, if it hasn't got a connection to the MCU, I'm not that interested in watching it, because otherwise I'll just spend my entire life watching superhero stuff. I love The Boys, but The Boys is good adult superhero storytelling. But yeah, but before I go as well, I've talked about the universe, but I'd also like us to go underground as well and check out the demon realms. You talked about Dormammu, like maybe check out some Mephisto, check out some another one of my favorite demons called Sim, who controls a demon realm called Limbo. There's so many places they could go now, which is just awesome. But yeah, I think we should wrap it up now. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, it's been absolutely great, and I mean, our numbers are increasing, so thank you.
We had a 200% increase in numbers today. That's great.
Yeah, thank you, Penny. Thank you, Dowdy. Thank you, Manny P's cousin.
Yep.
Thank you, Manny P. Thank you, me. And yeah, it's been great, and we look forward to our next one. Which will be very interesting. And I'll be definitely getting onto the One Division and also what's it what they called? The next
Falcon.
one, Captain Falcon
Falcon and
and
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting onto those now. And yeah, we'll do these podcasts again. And obviously, like I said, we're going to have guests on. The financial side of the deals have already been sorted. So that's perfect right there. But yeah, looking forward to it. And once again, thank you guys and girls for tuning in, and remember, share, tell your friends, everyone about it, because this is for everyone. I mean, so don't feel if you come and you're not really that knowledgeable on certain things, that you're going to be left out. No, it's interactive, so we're going to get everyone, whatever, it's fun. It's for everyone, take your mind off what's going on around you. So even if you can't stay for the whole podcast, just tune in. Obviously it will be online, so you'll be able to watch it again, and anything you missed out.
So this will be uploaded straight to the channel as soon as it's over. But yeah, like, let us know as well. Like, obviously, hopefully people will watch this after the fact as well. And if you want us to talk about other things, cover other subjects. Again, I only really know about Marvel stuff. I don't know anything about DC.
Yeah, I got a little DC knowledge, because
but
I've got a little, not much.
But yeah, like anything about those subjects, I can talk about that stuff all day long. Honestly, I'm more than happy to talk about any of that stuff. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. And Davian, say bye.
Yes, bye-bye. Stay safe, everyone.